Hello, Hello, Regina.
Hello, hi, how are you?
Good, good, good. I think can we start?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. You have the agenda, right?
Yes, I have the agenda.
Okay. I think we have all our speakers on ground. Do we have Ami? Oh, Ami's here. Wow, 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 wow. That's good. That's good. So happy, so happy. Great. So I think I'm going to start with a welcome address. It's gonna be brief. Then is that what we have?
Yes.
Okay. So although I have it here, but it's just brief. But at the end of the day, it will get to everybody. Please, so you just let me just start. By the way, it's an address by Ambassador Chris Ibe, the Executive Director, African Youth Initiative on Crime Prevention, in commemoration of the International Day Against Drug and Substance Abuse, Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, hosted in partnership with World Federation Against Drug, Wfard, and European Cities Against Drug, ECAD. I'd like to welcome all of us in this webinar to commemorate the 2020 International Day Against Drug and Illicit Trafficking. I wish to sincerely thank World Federation Against Drug and European Cities Against Drug ECAD for accepting to partner with us in hosting this event. It is my belief that the fight against drug problems, especially abuse and trafficking, needs global collaborations if we intend to win the fight. And that is the reason our organization is highly committed in identifying and promoting the ideals of Wfard, because it represents the hope of the common man, which is anchored on prevention. It is a fact that the global community has been pushed into isolation due to the recent global health challenge caused by COVID-19 pandemic. But the reality that confronts us today is that the isolation caused by coronavirus did not stop the harm being experienced, the harm being caused by drug and substance abuse in different communities. Our observation shows that the pandemic has further compounded problems of drug and substance abuse in global community among young people, especially in Nigeria, because many young people are no more under check and care. Because of the global isolation policies, depression has set in, leaving people with no choice for solution. The theme for this year, Better Knowledge for Better Care, poses great challenge to promoters and advocates of prevention, considering the fact that if an objective and enlightenment program that promotes increase in knowledge is projected and delivered to the people, there will be no better understanding. There will be better understanding and increment in knowledge, which automatically leads to better care. It is my belief that if an objective prevention program is implemented across the world, especially in Africa, there will be no need for harm reduction. There will be no need for rehabilitation and treatment. West Africa today has the highest drug use prevalence, followed by Central Africa, especially marijuana and opioids. And this gives us great concern. And that is why we are very, very committed in this global fight against drug through preventive approach. We have invited great minds and resource persons from across the world who will be speaking to us and also sharing practical experiences towards advancing better knowledge that will lead to better care. The collaboration of Africa, Europe in the fight against drug abuse and illicit trafficking is very, very germane, considering that if drugs are trafficked from Africa to Europe, drugs are trafficked from Africa to Europe, thereby endangering both communities. And if we must achieve a reduction in drug trafficking and drug abuse, there must be a holistic collaboration between Europe and African cities and governments. Let me use this opportunity to appreciate WFAD for creating enabling grant for global partnership, which AYICRIP have tapped into to establish working relationship with numerous organizations across the world, especially the Healthy Thinking International and Smart International, all in Sweden. We are already implementing programs in Nigeria. And I think we are also open for other collaborations. We are also open for other collaborations. I believe that at the end of this webinar, there will be a better understanding that prevention is the key if we must win the fight against drug. And that is why the United Nations today has chosen better knowledge for better care. They believe that if a better knowledge is advanced in the fight against drug and substance abuse, illicit trafficking, there will be no need of other options. So I use this opportunity to welcome each and every one as we deliberate on this webinar today. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Chris, for having us all here today. We at WFAD thank you very much for inviting us to both partake and come to this event in partnership with AYICRIP and with ECAD. I will move on with the agenda. I don't know, Chris, if you'd like us to go through the agenda first or if I should go ahead.
Yes, we can go through the agenda first. We can go through the agenda.
Okay. So we have really good speakers here today, and we'll start just with a brief introduction about WFAD, which I will carry out, and then followed by our international president, Amy, who will discuss the achievements of better knowledge for better care in post-COVID-19 drug abuse campaigns, after which Erik Leonmark, who is from the European Cities Against Drugs, will talk about the campaign against illicit drug trafficking in post-COVID-19 and the role of partnerships between Europe and Africa. This will be followed by Nikishka Ibe, who is from Nigeria and AYICRIP, and she will discuss the effects of drug abuse amongst pregnant women and the Nigerian experience. After Nikishka, there will be Eniola Joshua Olamide, who will discuss self-awareness and the accountability tree. After Enola, Tove Karlsson from Healthy Thinking International is going to talk about the WFAD members' collaboration with AYICRIP and her own experience of her organization, followed by Slim, who I see here in the corner, who is from Smart International, who will discuss the drug abuse prevention amongst children. This will be followed by about 10 minutes of questions and answered, after which we will have some closing remarks by Felix from AYICRIP. So I will just continue now to just tell you a little bit about WFAD, and I will keep it short because I want to leave as much time as possible for our speakers. My name is Regina Mattsson. I am the Secretary General of the World Federation Against Drugs. And like I said, we're delighted to be here today to commemorate the World Drug Day together with all of you. The WFAD is a multilateral community of non-governmental organizations and individuals. Our members work within the areas of advocacy, prevention, care, treatment, and recovery, with the joint aim to work towards a society free from the harms of illicit drugs. Our work within the WFAD is built on universal fellowship and basic human and democratic rights. And apart from the United Nations Conventions on Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances, our work is based on the Convention on the Rights of the Child, as well as the CEDAW Convention, which is the Convention on the Discrimination or the Elimination of Discrimination against Women. Apart from our vast membership base and the work we do together, we at WFAD work very closely with the United Nations and other international bodies. As of today, we have over 260 member organizations worldwide, represented in all continents of the world, thus making the WFAD the #1 prevention-focused global network. And I'd just like to say now that we're always open to new members, and you can apply via our website or just get in touch with me after this event. And I'd just like to finish by lending some words from one of our board members who just published a statement today, where he writes that WFAD is a world leader in promoting drug-free solutions for health and well-being, composed of a diverse global array of organizations and individuals working together to combat drug addiction. WFAD is the antidote to the modern drug epidemic. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. So, would you like to present our speaker, Chris? Or should I?
I think thank you very much for this great opportunity. I think this is the first time we are having, I'm getting to introduce these wonderful people. You know, it was really interesting to have reached out to them, and they bought the idea. Nobody said no. From Ami to Eric, from Slim to Tove to Olamide, and Nkechika, my beautiful wife. She also accepted to be part of this event. So although our Esther, our baby, she's at home, but we're in the office, so she's missing the section. At this point, I want to use this opportunity to invite the president of Wfard. He is the keynote speaker for today. He's a very special person, passionate in the fight against drug and substance abuse, a global citizen. I call her Ami. Please, Ami, take the front seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The pressure is on with the keynote position, huh? So thank you so much for having me today. Welcome. I know we have participants from all over the globe, so I will say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is in your time zone. Like we've already established, I'm Amy. I am the Executive Director of Drug Free America Foundation here in the US, and I'm also honored to serve as the International President of the World Federation Against Drugs. Today is a very special day. In 1987, the UN General Assembly dedicated today, June 26, as the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. Each year, today is supported by individuals, communities, and various organizations all over the globe to raise awareness on the major problems that illicit drugs represent to society. The theme has already been established is better knowledge for better care. And this theme emphasizes the need to improve our understanding of the world drug problem and how in turn our better knowledge will help inform evidence-based and data-driven solutions for better care in our communities. This knowledge will aid in fostering international collaborations like this for countering the impacts of drugs on health, environment, and security. The most recent World Drug Report that came out yesterday estimates that 269 million people, or 5.3% of our global population aged 15 to 64, used drugs in the previous year. This is an increase of 30% from just a decade ago. Adolescents and young adults account for the largest share of those using drugs. More than 35 million people are estimated to be suffering from drug use disorders, but only 1 in 8 who need drug treatment services receive it. For people with substance use disorders, the availability of services remains limited at a global level. 1 of 3 drug users is female. However, women only account for 1 in, oh, my thing is messing up here, for 1 in 5 individuals in treatment. Minorities, immigrants, and displaced people also face barriers to treatment services due to discrimination and stigma. With more than 35 million globally estimated to have a substance use disorder and an estimated 585,000 lives lost as a result of drug use in just 1 year, one could reasonably argue that we are experiencing a global drug crisis. The numbers are devastating, but the reality is heartbreaking. These are our beloved friends, our family members, our neighbors, and coworkers. It is important that as we talk about the numbers, we remember that each and every one of them represents a member of our global community. To put that number in perspective, the Premier League soccer football stadium where Manchester United plays can hold 75,000 people. Imagine filling 8 of those stadiums and those individuals gone in 1 year because of drug use. As a global community, we have made strides in promoting prevention and advocating for increased access to care and working to empower those in recovery. We have increased trainings for prevention and treatment professionals, and we continue to share data and research to push for policies that put public health and safety first. And we continue to strengthen our voice to speak truth to those in positions of power. And then a few months ago, our world suddenly changed. The COVID-19 pandemic to date has resulted in 484,000 deaths and over 9 million reported cases, pushing healthcare providers to their limits and causing an economic crisis. Shelter-in-place orders have put all of us in isolation, leading to decreased access to prevention and treatment services, as well as healthy outlets and activities that provide a distraction from addictions. Individuals on medicated assisted treatment had difficulty getting their medication in many parts of the world, which increased their risk of relapse and overdose. As prevention professionals, we were suddenly forced to think outside the box, which could be a good thing. With schools and businesses closed, sports and social clubs on hold, our hands-on approach was lost. Yes, virtual prevention strategies have been underway for years, and social media campaigns continue to thrive. But prevention isn't just about providing data and research. It's also about building healthy habits, both physically and mentally. And isolation and physical distancing has made some of our go-to prevention programming harder to employ. We can accept this challenge because the main principles of effective prevention strategies have not changed. I won't go into all of them, but one of the main principles is that prevention programs should enhance protective factors and reverse or reduce risk factors. COVID-19 has significantly increased risk factors that make individuals vulnerable to potential behavioral health issues, in this case, substance abuse. Those risk factors can include a lack of economic opportunity. The pandemic has forced tens of millions around the world out of their jobs. With schools closed, many of our youth are missing their main food supply, or it could mean more time in a drug-endangered home. For prevention, this means that we have to meet people where they are at. Yes, we can continue our virtual education platforms and host prevention activities and group meetings online. We can and we should continue and expand those efforts. I'm continuously amazed at the creativity of how we learn to communicate and expand our capacity. And I'm inspired by how in the face of a global pandemic, we've accepted the challenge and adapted to continue the mission of our work. But let us not forget about those who are most vulnerable and prioritize those prevention efforts. Many are not having their basic needs met during this pandemic, and they must come first. A wash your hands message to prevent the spread of infectious disease is valuable and needed, but so is access to clean water to achieve that goal. Preventing drug abuse, curbing addiction, and increasing the number of people in recovery requires a focus on education, policy reform, and family and community engagement. Addiction is a chronic disease that affects the brain, and individuals with substance use disorders deserve to be treated with dignity. We know that primary prevention and treatment work, and we know that recovery is possible. Now more than ever, it is important to understand and educate key stakeholders that the development of a substance use disorder is related to the relationship between a number of risk and protective factors that are very often beyond the control of one individual. It is our job to enact policies that enhance life skills, that reduce risk factors, and build up and enrich protective factors. During the pandemic, we have seen an array of policies put in place in order to address accessibility of substances. For example, a few countries banned the sale of alcohol while on lockdown. There is early data to suggest that the bans did decrease public health and public safety issues related to alcohol abuse, while information points to an increase in black market sales and dangerous home brews. In contrast, here in the United States, alcohol stores and marijuana dispensaries were named as an essential business and allowed to remain open. Not only were they deemed essential, special rights were granted to allow for takeaway and delivery services that were previously considered illegal before the pandemic. What kind of message should these policies send to our youth? As prevention professionals, this is part of our job to also work on the impacts of these changing policies and prevent them from having negative implications in our community. The role of prevention in the era of COVID-19 and beyond should look at the public health response to this pandemic and learn from it. It is imperative that our prevention action plan includes seeking government support and making prevention a priority. Funding for prevention and drug treatment programs with the development of intervention governments are implementing to address the negative societal costs related to the pandemic are vital. Advocacy efforts should include integrating substance abuse and prevention treatment with the COVID-19 response and recovery efforts. As we create teams to test, track, and trace COVID-19 infections, we must also treat patients and their family members suffering from or at risk from mental health and substance use disorders, and make sure those with opioid use disorders have access to medicated assisted treatment and naloxone. Second, our prevention efforts should include education campaigns on the heightened risk of substance abuse in the context of COVID-19 and information on where individuals can turn for help. Lastly, the pandemic has created the largest forced isolation in our modern history. It is imperative to remain socially connected through events like this and to advocate for mechanisms to provide resources for rural areas and minority communities who may not have the bandwidth or internet access to host such events. On behalf of the World Federation Against Drugs, I want to thank you for your commitment in being here today. I encourage you to share your challenges so that we can work together to meet your needs, and to share your successes so that we can replicate those strategies across the globe. It's morning here in my time zone, and I'm very happy to start the day with you. I look forward to hearing from the other speakers today, and I wish all of us a successful day full of purpose and hope. Thank you.
Regina, you can go ahead. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. That was a wonderful start to the day. Next presenter is Leonmark from ECAD. I'll let you introduce yourself. We're very happy that you're here, Eric.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Chris. And thank you all the other speakers and the participants. My name is Eric Leonmark. I'm Secretary General of European Cities Against Drugs. And I have been asked to speak about the campaign against illicit drug trafficking in post-COVID-19 and the role of partnership between Europe and Africa. And as a European network of cities, we have been established in 1994 with a very clear aim. Our aim was to focus or emphasize prevention and to increase efficiency of prevention within our cities and local communities. We were, for example, not created to facilitate drug use or, let's say, just reduce the harmful consequences of drug use. even though we recognize as cities, as mayors, as a local community, we need to do both. We need to bring down demand for drugs. We need to bring down levels of use, which is our primary aim. And we also need to treat those who we can't reach with a prevention message, because there will always be someone who will not fall. But from our perspective, from European Cities Against Drugs, and I do think this is shared with many of you here today, the sense of direction is quite important. You can't focus on two things at the same time, because you will end up catching no one, chasing both ends with having no one. So for us, it's important to really maintain the idea of having a drug-free world and something to work towards. And I think this is even more important because there are some things now that have been, that with the COVID-19, it really has put a strain in some of the health responses we have seen, not just in relation to the virus, but also, as Amy pointed out, there are some difficulties in maintaining some medical substitution treatments, or whether you have different healthcare options. And we also know that the active drug users are a very vulnerable group. And as long as they are in current active drug use, when society is being struck by something as devastating and forceful as the COVID-19, these groups tend to be left out. And it just goes to show that the vulnerable groups will be even more vulnerable when it comes to an external crisis. So we cannot trust, in our opinion, we can't trust primarily healthcare or harm reduction approach to sustain vulnerable groups in times like these. The only viable way forward is to keep working with the prevention message and bring down the levels of drug use, and to really shape and create a resilient community which can better withstand an external shock like this. And just to very briefly mention a few of the things, there are so many things we yet do not know of the impact of COVID-19. Some things with the drug markets that have been shown in Europe is that for some drugs, trafficking have been going on pretty much as normal when it comes to levels of shipments or cargo, which has been going on quite normally, even though people cannot travel as much. Goods and cargoes have, for most or less. But for other drugs, cannabis, for example, there has been significant shortages, and also for heroin. So when you are dependent on those types of drugs, you can find yourself in a very precarious situation. And it is an opportunity somehow for really stepping up our efforts and try to get these people out of the drugs. So when talking about the message or the campaign against illicit drug trafficking, I do think it's important to recognize that Europe and Africa, we are codependent on each other also in this area, but also to recognize that many of our problems can be or should be addressed locally. And I think COVID-19 really has put an emphasis or a reintroduction of the local community as a sense of analysis and work. Because for example, you might not been following this very carefully, but in the European Union, there were severe difficulties cooperating between different European countries among themselves, how to share different medical equipment, for example. When there really was a need, the nation states took very much their own people in mind. And I think it's important to realize this, that the key to a successful prevention really starts at home. It starts with us, it starts with our families, it starts with our local communities. And no one can expect a global approach to cover all of that. What we can do, and what I think is really important for Europe and Africa to come together, and when we want to hear your voice much stronger, and which we're already doing, is that the sense of direction is really important. And we are fighting, as you might well know, in the European Union, in the United Nations. There are always these debates on how to treat the drug problem. Should we aim to reduce the harm, or should we aim to reduce the levels of use? And I really think that for a continent full of young people, full of children and families, it's really important that our prevention message goes, really hits the note on this one. So I think that's pretty much what I would like to say, and I'm happy to just maybe conclude with something, just an example of what we have been doing concretely from European Cities Against Drugs. We have been, as many others have, doing things like this. We've had parental meetings, for example, online. We have had many seminars online, and we try to to really build the local community from the bottom up through the use of technology. And that's something we'll just have to keep on doing. So it's really important that World Federation Against Drugs and all its partners are continuing to develop in this very fruitful way. And I do hope we can do that together and really strengthen all our local communities and the global voice, through them, the global voice. So thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions afterwards if there's time for it.
Thank you, Eric. That's wonderful. I see people clapping in their little screens. So thank you very much for sharing that. And it's important to bear in mind what you're saying as well, to start out from the local and to continue to work together, both between Europe and Africa, but also all parts of the world. So thank you very much for that. Next, I would like to welcome my dear friend who will be discussing or presenting on the effects of drug abuse amongst pregnant women in the Nigerian experience. Let's see where you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And I must also thank the organizers and the hosts of this webinar, AYICRIP and Wfard, for this wonderful opportunity. My name is Ukechika Ibe. I am the Executive Director and founder of Impact Her World Foundation, an organization focused on promoting the well-being of women and girls in Nigeria and by extension, Africa. And I also am very excited for the theme of this year's international commemoration, which says better knowledge for better care. And for me, any international commemoration by the United Nations is often a time for sober reflection on what is working and what is not. How can we promote and how can we intensify actions towards achieving the major aim of celebrating these days? And for the theme of this year, you all will agree with me that better knowledge for better care is a way of intensifying our voices, especially the prevention voice, because there is nothing that surpasses prevention. Take, for example, in this era of global pandemic, which is the coronavirus, we can see that as much as there are measures to cushion the effects of the pandemic, greater focus has been on prevention, on the television, on the radio, on TV, everywhere. Once you open your phone, or just even as text messages, we see these preventive measures, because that is one way of combating coronavirus. And I want to, this particular commemoration is a call to action for prevention experts, irrespective of all the organizations across the globe, to declare drug and substance abuse a global pandemic. And for that, there is need for global uprising towards prevention approaches. There is need for people to begin to see it as a very huge destructive factor for the society. And going by the topic I have been given, I'm delighted to have read the World Drug Report. Thank you, Regina, for sharing it on our platform. I'm delighted to
Sorry, I think you were accidentally muted. Are you able to unmute? You were just talking about the World Drug Report. Ah, there you go.
Yes.
Thank
you. The World Drug Report says that more than 1 billion people worldwide use drugs, and over 35 million of these people suffer from drug use disorder. Why there is no, I wasn't able to see the gender aspect. If we have more than 1 billion people using drugs, what's the percentage of the women and the men? It's clearly, it shows that there is a rising in the use of drug and substance abuse. And this I can attribute to the fact that more focus has shifted from prevention. More focus has shifted from prevention, and it has caused this rise. Now, when we look at the issues of women, we can see that from every research and report, the percentage of men that abuse drugs or are under drug use substance disorder is higher than that of women. That is a fact. But the truth remains that for one woman who abuses drugs, a generation is in problem. And if there are up to two generations are in problem. And so there is need, even if the number of men is higher, there is need for more actions, approaches to ensure that more women are aware of the impact of drug and substance abuse, not just to themselves, but to their families and to the environment. Now, there are some risk factors that pushes the use of drugs among both men and women. We have poverty, we have conflict wars, we have mental issues, and thereabouts. According to the UN report, they listed a whole lot of things, but I didn't see gender-based violence, because this is also an aspect of is a risk factor. A research that I carried out that I presented recently by in International Women's Group, a virtual conference that they had, it was on intimate partner violence amongst female students in universities. And you get to find out that the consequences, the effects of most of the violence experienced by women, whether emotional abuse or sexual violence or even physical violence, most of this impacts it drives them towards taking drugs. They become initiated most times to drug abuse. And you know that initiation is very easy to get initiated into this stuff, especially when you're depressed and frustrated. It's very easy for you to be initiated into such source. And from initiation, it escalates. And from escalation, you get dependence and addiction. So it's like a cycle. So as part of the risk factors, we must capture gender-based violence, which an aspect of it is intimate partner violence. Now, these risk factors has effects on women. I'm not talking about pregnant women right now. I'm talking of women in general. Now, in general, women who have a drug use disorder are more likely to have a comorbid psychiatric disorder. This is, I'm deriving my presentation mostly from the report of the UNODC, World Drug Reports. Now, when women who have a drug use disorder are more likely to have comorbid psychiatric disorder, that's why we have more women who are depressed. We have more women who have post-traumatic stress disorder. We have women who have panic disorders and the rest of it. So it's when we have more women who are depressed, how can they take care of their families? How can they take care of people around them? How can they make their positive input and impact to the society? It becomes a problem. Now, also, we have women face risk in terms of sexual and reproductive health when it comes to drug use disorders. That's also part of my research. That it's one of the major effects of violence is that they have sexual and reproductive health, which is also what my organization drives. And as well as experience sexual violence, particularly in context of poverty and drug use. So when we talk about drug and substance abuse, sometimes the push it also has some gender disparity, because we need to intensify actions on how these things affect women and how we can build measures and mechanisms and approaches that can cushion the effect of this, because the moment it hits women higher, the society is destabilized. So the existentiality of our societies is questioned. Now, also, women who have a partner who also have a drug disorder can suffer. Some women are married to men who have these drug and substance use disorders. What do they go through? They go through several physical violence. Some of them might face even they can be killed, deaths. So it affects women a whole lot. And that is why today, that is the International Day, there is need to call for an action towards ensuring that more women, activities towards ensuring that more women are being captured in the area of drug and substance abuse disorders and reduction. And also when it has to do with pregnant women, when I was pregnant, I realized that during antenatal care, visit, I realized that more women are not aware of the impact of certain things that they take in when they have when they're pregnant. And then it pushed me to do a research, and I realized that women who are in their past and current pregnancies, for example, have over 77% of them abuse alcohol. 26.6% of them abuse cigarettes while pregnant, and 7.4% abuse tramadol and codeine. Now, the consequences of this on babies, obviously, are we have neonatal deaths, which rates 22.3%. We have deformity, and we have health complications for these babies. And most of these women, when I sampled the awareness test, we find out that over 69.4% of these women are not aware of what they're supposed to do, the healthy lifestyles are supposed to take up while pregnant. So the issue of drug and substance abuse is something that we need to address, and address it as fast as possible, most especially as it affects women in Nigeria, in Africa, and across the world. We must declare this a global pandemic, push forward for prevention, support every prevention mechanisms, including research, and also make sure that these particular issues are being portrayed globally. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I'm glad to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this wonderful and important presentation. It's so great to hear not only what you're saying about the focus for this year of better knowledge for better care being a way of intensifying our voices, especially within the prevention field, but also to include the situation of women, which is important in all areas of all of our work, not only prevention, but treatment, recovery as well. And also for bringing in the concept or the notion of gender-based violence, always important. So I thank you very much for this. And we will go on to the next theme, which is self-awareness and the accountability tree. I'm very much looking forward to this presentation.
Yes, thank you so much. And my name is Joshua Eniola. I'm joining in from Nashville, the US. I really thank Chris for the platform. I've been friends with Chris for over 15 years, and I've been part of AYICRIP's programs across Nigeria. And when I sent this topic to Chris, Chris said, "You have come again. What does your topic mean?" your topic is a little bit different. I think, Honorable, don't worry about it. And basically, I'll just point to what we mean by self-awareness and what I mean by accountability tree, and then I go further into it. For me, I know that we have a lot of experts that will be here, talking about, from a very broad point of view, the impact of drugs and all that on the society in Nigeria and Africa. But I'm really interested in what are the solutions. One of my beliefs is that sometimes you find the way out by not focusing on just the problem, but begin to think about what are the alternatives. And one of the root causes that I've seen interacting with young people is the absence of self-awareness. And in this context, I'll call it purpose beyond money. So if the purpose of your life is to work, and it's difficult, growing up in Nigeria, where you find yourself struggling, you have to meet economic demands and all that, it's difficult to think of purpose beyond the immediate baseline of Maslow's hierarchy in terms of what's my survival, what's my shelter, what's my clothing, and what are just the basics of survival. But the reality is that we have to begin to, through advocacy and through engagement, from the lowest level, from community levels up through academic institutions, to get young people to become self-aware in the sense that you have a purpose beyond money. You have a purpose beyond survival. You were not created to survive. You are created to thrive and live a life of impact. So this is fundamental. And for me, the moment I was able to answer this self-awareness question, it changed my life. It changed my outlook to the world. It changed my entire trajectory, because I could decide to make a decision even when I never considered money as a factor. But interacting with Nigerians and being somebody who grew up in a society that can be very difficult. So this is a fundamental thing. Once people place a premium on money above purpose, then there's a thwarted approach towards life. That's one. Then moving to the accountability tree, MK Abiola, the acclaimed winner of Nigeria's 1993 election, said that no matter how tall a tree is, its roots will always be in the soil. And what that means is that we do not work in isolation. This is a very strong African approach, and the African approach has always been a community-focused approach. And basically, when you are not accountable, when nobody can question you, when you get yourself to the point where you are pursuing whatever, it's a mix. You are not self-aware, that's on one side. So you are pursuing whatever you call your survival above every other thing. Then you are unaccountable. When you put those two things together, it's like an explosion. And that is what we're currently experiencing. I mean, the abuse of tramadol in northern part of Nigeria. Having worked in the core north, I've seen young herders, the people that take care of cows, take the medicine that is meant for horse. So to give them energy, so they stay for days without eating, and they rely on some of these dangerous drugs. So the implication is that there's no accountability. So from a community approach is, how do we ensure that we have a system, sometimes it's called a support system. We must ensure that we have the network. Young people begin to build network of accountability, networks where people can question you. So when you have the mindset that, for example, we have the I want to be my own boss syndrome that I've always talked about in Nigeria, it's good to be entrepreneurial, it's good to look out for opportunities. But when the mindset is because you want to make all decisions by yourself without recourse to anybody, so it still comes back to this, my accountability tree. The tree cannot, the leaves will not be on its own. There's a collaboration across board. And when questions are asked, when there's a misunderstanding on what you are doing, you should be able to answer to people. I take an example of Chris once again. I and Chris have been friends on ideology. So any day I see Chris derailing with AYICRIP, I'll call him to challenge him. And any day he sees me, he has called me before and told me, this is your pursuit of money in the corporate world. I'm worried for you. He has called me before. I say, why are you worried? He said, I'm worried for you. Why are you pursuing the corporate world and you have abandoned the entire youth constituency? I told him, no, it was a time, because I wanted to prove to young people that you can work in the corporate world and you can conquer it. It was part of me using my life as an example. But that is accountability. I had to speak to him. He could call me to challenge me. So once we have this, it's almost like a mechanism where even when things are going out of order, it's corrected. And it's very local. We have it, these are things that has really happened for a long time in Nigeria and for most parts of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, where community approach, where people, the community, I mean, Hillary Clinton once quoted a very popular African saying. She says, it takes what? A village to raise a child. And that's been the approach. And we need to go back to restore some of these basics, just back to the basics. You are not raised in isolation. And once we begin to put those locks back together, you know, we'll begin to see younger people that when they run into trouble, they have a support system they can rely on. They have a support system they can question. And not just that, they have a support system who doesn't necessarily have all the answers, but can position them or point them to the right resource or support. There are several resources, but without this accountability tree, without this ability to walk and challenge yourself, we'll be having this problem around, like it's almost like moving in a secular form without finding the right solution. Now, I will be approaching my conclusion by saying, even for those that have things going very well for them, the question is, when things decide not to go well, how do you approach it? I was in my second year in the University of Lagos when I had the unfortunate task of burying my only sister. And by the time I was in my fourth year in the University of Lagos, I had the unfortunate task of burying my eldest brother. When depression, when circumstances don't go according to plan, what do? Do you have the accountability tree to fall back on? Do you have the support system? Or are you left to deal with it in a way that you feel, I'm all alone, it doesn't matter? And these are the problems. So we need to just keep pushing in terms of encouraging small groups. The solution is not one person talking to a large group of people. It's a small collection of people coming together to hold themselves accountable. Where you have high school students coming together, forming, I was part of several of these kind of groups where you come together and you question yourself. You talk about your ambition, you talk about what you want to do, and you ensure that you hold yourself accountable. You have university students, just like I am, Chris Ibe, where in University of Lagos, we held ourselves accountable. And not just him, we have a number of us all over the world, and we still hold ourselves accountable today. So just having people come together and when they're having issues, they're having challenges, they can open up and be vulnerable instead of bottling it up and at the end of the day, allowing themselves to be victims of depression, to be victims of frustration. And the last one is, when I said purpose beyond money, there are some that have pursued making money and they have succeeded very legitimately so. But after then what is life? I've made so much money, I don't know what to do. I wake up every morning, I have no reason to wake up anymore because I just have money. Then you begin to see that's where drug abuse starts. Is what can I do? How can I? It's now pleasure seeking without barriers. And this accountability tree is not just for those that are struggling economically, but it's also for those who have achieved what they had planned to achieve, maybe at a very early stage. I'm a footballer and I was, trying to get into the Premier League. I got in, I got millions of pounds. And next thing, what am I doing in my life? I'm not playing, I have off-season periods. And this is why you see many talented people have the risk of falling into drug abuse and all this just because there's no purpose. So in conclusion, my submission is we need to go back to the old school advocacy, which is mainly working on self-awareness, working on community engagement at the lowest level, and ensuring that we bring back the old African approach of communities, not old, young, even young people from small groups where they can support each other and point themselves to the right resources. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Joshua. That was wonderful. You really explained the self-awareness and accountability tree in a way that makes sense. And it's a really good point for all of us to bring with us forward from today and on. You said something that I really liked. You said that when talking to youth, to tell them that you're created to triumph and lead a life of impact. And I thought that was a very wonderful thing. So thank you very, very much for this. And I would like to go forward and welcome our next guest, Tove, who will speak about the WFAD members collaboration from her own experience with her organization and with AYICRIP. So thank you, Joshua, and welcome, Tove.
Thank you very much. My name is Tove Karlsson, and I'm the chairperson of a Swedish-based NGO called Healthy Thinking International. I would like to thank you very much for inviting me here today to share some of the work that we have done. Today, I'm representing Healthy Thinking International. We work mainly with different health issues among children and young people around the world. Healthy Thinking board members are all nurses or social workers. We have found that it is a good way of targeting different health issues with both the medical eye and the social aspect of the situation. One of our main areas that we work in is the drug-related issues among youth globally, and we focus on prevention work. So we have, in cooperation with AYICRIP in Nigeria and Uticus Academy in Kenya and Slum Child Foundation in Kenya, developed a method that we use in schools. So I'm going to try and squeeze all this into a few minutes, try to explain what it is that we do. So we educate teachers in using a manual consisting of 10 different modules, with each module targeting a drug and substance abuse related area. The teachers are all trained in how to work with the manual. They will then use it in their schools in a 10-week program for the students, targeting one module a week. After 10 weeks, the students have completed the course and will be certified Healthy Thinking ambassadors. They all receive a certificate and can now spread their knowledge to other friends and family. They will also work as mentors for new students that are starting up the program. The manual is, of course, evidence-based, and it goes strictly accordingly to international standards. And before the students start the program, they take an anonymous pre-survey. They will also do the same survey after the program. This is for the teachers to see what can be improved or developed. We have been active for about 3 years with this program, and we have mainly been working in 2 of the biggest slum areas in Nairobi, Kibera and Korogocho in Kenya. And at the moment, we have about 100 teachers and 1,000 students that has gone through the program. And we're currently starting up this program in Nigeria too. And the schools we are working with have formed healthy thinking clubs. This is where they can find some drug-free activities such as sports, music. They have created poetry groups. And when working with drug prevention in schools, we know that it is important to have a drug policy. That is something that we support the schools in making. And there are already some really good ones. In Kenya, for example, you have NACADA that has brought out a really good drug policy, but has to be adjusted to the country you're in, of course. So we try to implement these in the schools, and it is a great way for the teachers and the students to know exactly what the rules are and how the policy works. And we also encourage the schools to talk about the drug policy with parents as well. We do also look at the risk factors among the students, and we have identified a few that we do work active with. One of the risk factors that we have found in the schools we work in is when students are absent from schools. They are then in a very vulnerable situation without the safety network that are provided in the school. And we have seen that especially girls that are staying home are extremely exposed to violence and drugs. And girls, we have seen that they stay home about 1 week every month due to the lack of sanitary products during their menstruation. This means that they will miss out on education and also on the safety nets. Some girls sell sex in order to get sanitary pads, and that can sometimes lead to them using drugs to reduce the anxiety connected to this situation. So we run a program on sanitary pads where the students and staff can make their own fabric reusable pads. Last year we had this project going. We followed 100 girls, and they were given sanitary pads for a year, and their attendance went up to 100%. So that is an important aspect when working with drug prevention. We do a lot of other things as well, but we have if I want to summarize the 5 main things we do when it comes to drug and substance abuse prevention, we do focus on 1, give the students the knowledge they need to make a healthy decision. We work with drug policies, we identify the risk factors, we support drug-free activities outside school, and we promote self-esteem and life skills. And that's all I'm going to say about this right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tove. It's a very good to have some practical examples of good preventive work as well, and you really have a great example of that. I mean, school attendance going up 100% is incredible. We're very happy to hear about your work and happy to hear that you're also starting to set up in Nigeria. So we look forward to continuing to follow you in this journey. So thank you, Tove. We have our final speaker now before we have some time for questions and answers, and Felix will provide some closing remarks. Our final guest is Slim Lydian, who will discuss the drug abuse prevention amongst children, the SMART Club approach. You're very welcome, Slim, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Okay.
Oh, we heard you quickly and now we can't hear you again. Perhaps you can unmute again. Sorry. Now I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Great.
you can hear me. You can nod if you hear me. Thank you, Amy, and all of you. I'm the founder of Smart International, and I'm happy to see our chairperson, Aida Asghari, is listening too, with a big smile there, and Eric from the board as well. SMART stands for Smart Choices, Smart Kids, and a Smart Method. Let's talk about PPPP, Positive Primary Prevention in Practice. My background: in 1980, I made up my mind to help children and youth to say no to narcotics, not the least cannabis. I started learning about THC, dependence, and so on. Then I wrote lyrics for an LP and produced an album called Russian Roulette, since the scientists said that 1 out of 6 random who try cannabis get addicted and sort of crushed. You don't know beforehand who this will be, just like the Russian roulette. So I don't know if you can see a lot in this small picture. Russian roulette. Anyway, that's one of my records. Well, I made teaching materials for schools and started touring Sweden with a stage program. I have given 1,500 stage performances over the years for pupils and sometimes parents. But did I affect their behavior? Did I do it long term? I couldn't say that. Information is not enough. Information is not enough. So I started looking for a method that affected the behavior and did it long term. In 1993, on one of my tours, I found it, a method that worked like I wanted. So I have worked with it, developed it, and spread it in Sweden and parts of Northern Europe since then. We call it the contract concept, and it works extremely well also in Africa. We all know that narcotic drugs are disastrous for people and especially for the young. Their lives are more or less spoiled. Sure, we can try and make them quit, but that is extremely hard. Our alternative is to make them never start. But probably we are not there when they are offered to start on some narcotic drug, and they're probably drunk at that occasion as well. We should be there earlier, much earlier, and make them smarter and stronger and help them convince themselves to say no to every unsmart suggestion. And it's much easier to say no if you have a lot of friends who also have chosen to say no. Nobody starts on narcotics without having done other unsmart things before. You can look here. I know it's a small picture. I'm trying to show you when nobody goes directly from the bottom up to doing drugs. They do take one step at a time, from bullying, starting to smoke and so on, starting to drink and so on, up to the top where the terrible narcotic drugs are. We call it the stepping stones to narcotics. So how can we reach them before they start climbing on the stepping stones? And how can we make them refuse to say no? We want to find them, meet them, before they start on those stepping stones. It's much easier the sooner we meet them. So where are they? Ah, yes, most of them are at school. So we contact the school, convince the headmaster and school board, get admitted and start working with the pupils in our target group. Often just one class to start with. We want to reach the children before they start drinking, smoking, and so on. So we normally start from when they are about 11 years of age. Before that class meeting, we have formed a group of volunteers who want to help to stop kids from bullying, smoking, drinking, and of course taking drugs. We also need, and we get their support, the parents, when there's no problem with them. When we enter the target classroom for the first time, like I and Ida did with Andrew in Uganda last year, we shall stand for positivity, happiness, freedom, gender rights, singing, dancing, whatever, learning, of course. We explain that they are lucky, they are selected. This class will get something the others will not. We will start a special club for you, a smart club. We will organize activities just for you. In the club, you will be invited to attend a lot of different activities, fun, sporty, cultural, and educational activities. But if you want to join this club, you have to make up your mind and sign a contract where you promise to stay away from bullying and all bad substances for a year at a time. The contract is countersigned by a parent, which leads to positive talks at home. One benefit is a membership card. It's laminated with your name and your photo, just like an ID. The members are so proud. The interest in working with the contract concept in Africa is spreading faster than before. Still, it must take time to prepare for and start a smart club. The better preparations, the better results and long life. Today, we have these great smart clubs in the third world. Kenya, 2 clubs, and 2 more are coming up. Uganda, 4 clubs, plus 2 coming up. Tanzania, take a quick look there. Oh, they're so happy. 1 plus 1. Burundi, a new one has started now. Nigeria, 1 plus several more. You can see Chris and Kachika and the board of the Smart Club there. Ghana, you can just see happy faces, I guess. They have 1 club so far. Indonesia, it says here, listening and smiling now. Indonesia are splendid. They are so happy. Many great activities. About to start soon are Brazil, DR Congo, Sierra Leone, Afghanistan, possibly Malawi, and a restart in Bangladesh. Hello, Amaro, I see your face there too. From 6 other countries, there is an outspoken interest. Many leaders choose their target group among poor kids in the slum, vulnerable kids, orphans. It's heartbreaking to see these kids after a while on photos and videos from the club's mixed activities. It's amazing, so much happiness, smiles, and relief. In the future, I really hope that the contract concept will spread like waves on water, with your help. If that should be possible, the method can't be financed from abroad. It must build on idealistic volunteers and local stakeholders. So we must make it work now without external financing. Our network, Smart International, is a poor NGO with no employees. But we offer you a life-saving, evidence-based method for free, and long-term free personal coaching as well. Right now, we can just offer a new club a moderate sum of $200 plus 11 hits. So this is not for the money, it's for the kids and their families and your society. If you're interested, please mail me at smartsweden@gmail.com. smartsweden@gmail.com. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Slim. And as before, I see that everyone's clapping in their little boxes. Of course, we will send out Slim's email afterwards for those of you who didn't catch it now and want to get involved in this smart contract concept. Thank you very much, Slim. Always a pleasure. And now we have about 20 minutes left. We have reserved the 10 minutes at the end for our closing remarks, but we have about 10 minutes now for some questions and answers. So there should be in the bottom of your screen a possibility to virtually raise your hand. So please, if you have any questions, you may virtually raise your hand or write your question in the chat box, and I will read them or give you the word. I see Felix has a question. You may unmute yourself, or perhaps I can unmute. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate this and the great speakers, great speeches, and everything. My point is not a question; it's just an observation. I am grateful Mrs. Ibe talked about drug abuse in the Nigerian context. I think it would be nice, since we have the likes of Tove and Slim. They are working. Their project is in some of their projects is in Africa. I think for moving on, I think it would be nice to have other speakers from other countries in Africa to talk about their own experience, like what Mrs. Ibe has talked about. It's just an observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Yes, that is, I agree with you that we can have more people with their experiences. And since I do not see any more questions, perhaps someone would like to share your experiences with prevention work in your country. Either raise your hand or unmute yourself and you can speak.
Lena is raising her hand.
Lena, all right, thank you.
Lena Janina.
Lena and Janina, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for all the presentations and many things that we from WFAD agree on that said. And what I was thinking when listening, because we work a lot to make people who are trying to destroy our prevention work, and it's one of those instances is the drug industry. If it's alcohol, if it's tobacco, if it's pills or whatever. I think that we have to go together, join our forces and try to stop their targeting to young people. If it's to young girls, it's always pink. And if it's for other ages, it makes you slim. It's 0 calories. It makes you beautiful. So do something together to minimize the possibilities of targeting young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lena. And for those of you who do not know Lena previously, she works at the Women's Organizational Committee for Alcohol and Drug Questions. I may be saying their name a bit wrong, but they're a big leader in terms of women's rights issues within our field. So thank you, Lena, for sharing. So is there anyone else virtually, or I see Chris is waving. Please go ahead.
Yes. I really want to thank all the wonderful presenters. The speakers were just fantastic. And what I want to emphasize here is all about WFAD. You know, when Tove and Slim made their presentation, I give the credit to World Federation Against Drug. My reason being that this is the gains of the network. This is the gains of the network, the ability to cross-fertilize ideas, exchange experiences, and enter into partnership. And I think my visit to Gothenburg provided us this opportunity. And today we have clubs in Nigeria, smart clubs in Nigeria. We are starting Healthy Thinking International training programs in Nigeria. Tove was in Nigeria last year with Magnus, and Aja with Solem, the husband. They were in Nigeria early this year before the pandemic. So I think there is need for more for encouragement of more collaborations across WFAD affiliate members, and I think that is what WFAD should always preach about. They should promote this. We need more cross-fertilization of ideas and partnership across the continents. You know, it goes a long way to bridge a whole lot of trust, bringing, creating peace, you know, a whole of ethno-religious tolerance. It reduces so many organic issues that the world is actually facing today. So I really thank WFAD for creating this opportunity that we have actually tapped into to develop this partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I can only say the same. Thank you. It's the members that create the network, and it's our members that are WFAD. So without you, none of this would have been possible. I don't see any more hands raised. So if you have any more ideas after this meeting, you can always send me an email or Chris an email, and we will make sure to give the question to the right speaker. So with that, I would like to thank you again and give the word to Felix for some final. Sorry.
Regina, we'll definitely have a picture, right?
Yes.
Okay. So before the vote of thanks, I think we all have to come on board. Can you do that? So let's come on board and have a group picture, please.
Yes, so if everyone can start their videos, we can see you all. Very good point, Chris. We will try our best to have some pictures here. I will go through. There were very many people, so good to see everyone's faces. I see Colton as well. Hello. Stacy, hi. Anton, lovely. Solly from South Africa. This is wonderful.
Yes.
Abuse drugs.
Oh yes, so we have Eze. Great.
Under any of the foregoing pressure.
Very good, Chris. I think we have some pictures here. Let me make sure to do this without my computer giving me a hard time. Thank you. Lovely. All right, so now I will give the word to Felix to make your closing remarks. And I thank all of you for being here. It's been a lovely, lovely afternoon.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. It's great to give the closing remarks, and it's wonderful hearing from different speakers. I've met Tove, and this is my first time seeing Slim talking. As a member of Wfard too, it's a great opportunity to partake in this program. And I want to thank Chris for bringing up this initiative. It's been wonderful. I've been working with Chris, and we have been doing so much things together. And the good thing about this program is that all the speakers, they talk from their heart, which is one thing I always want to promote, talking from the heart, telling us your experience, what you have done and why you are doing this, which is very wonderful. I really want to thank Regina, Ami, Chris, NK, Joshua, Slim, Tove for their time, and this is great. And I want to say that whatever we are doing today, we should keep up the momentum and try and see how we can expand this network. Like Chris would say, you know, the SDG last goal 17 talks about partnership for the goals. so we can all collaborate and be partners to achieve these goals of drug and substance abuse prevention. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Felix. It'd be nice to hear everybody clapping.
Thank you. Oh my God.
So thank you all for this lovely afternoon, and I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you to speakers and participants, and of course to Chris for making this all happen. Thank you.
Thank you.